In this video, we will talk through some of the ArcGIS API for Python components used throughout the course. In almost every video, we are going to use the GIS class to access our ArcGIS Online organization. This is the entry point to ArcGIS Online where we can then move along and access items of content. Speaking of content, one of the most important modules in the ArcGIS API for Python is the Content Manager. This allows us to access individual items of content in our ArcGIS Online. When we use the Content Manager to access our content, we are generally going to be returned an item object. This item object is pivotal to the ArcGIS API for Python. An item object can represent a feature service, a web map, or a dashboard, for example, amongst others. In this course, obviously, we are most interested in the web map item, but we are also going to use feature service items, which are also known as feature layer collections. So each item object can represent a different piece of item in our ArcGIS Online. Although we're not going to dive into groups in this course, it is another important module within the ArcGIS API for Python. You can use the group manager to create and access groups, where we can add feature service items, web map items, dashboard items, and other items of content. Of course, this course is all about the web map. As of ArcGIS API for Python 2.4.0, the web map class from the previous versions has been removed in favor of the map class. We're going to see that we can use the map class to create a map object, and from this map object we can save our web map as an item object. Once our web map item is saved, in future workflows we will use the Content Manager to access that web map item object, and we can either directly manipulate the JSON of that item object, or we can convert it to a map object and use the map class functionality for our automated workflows. The map object has a property called content, which is a MapContent class. It is this MapContent class or object that enables us to add and interact with layers and tables in our web map. As we know, these layers and tables come from feature services, and that is where the features module comes into play. The features module allows us to access and create objects such as a feature layer collection, which is a feature service, a feature layer object or a table object, and diving deeper we can access individual feature objects from our tables or our feature layers. We can access a feature service, feature layer or table directly from the item object. Once we have our feature service or our feature layer class from the item object, we can use the map content property to add the entire feature service to our web map or individual layers and tables. Although not a huge part of this course, we are going to use the geometry class. We are going to access the geometry for a feature and use the geometry from that feature to update or define the extent for our web map. This course is all about automating your web map interactions with the ArcGIS API for Python, so it will mainly center around the map class. In this video, we got an overview for the components modules that will be used in this course for the ArcGIS API for Python. Now, I hope you don't get too overwhelmed with that diagram. Trust me, as you go through this course, that will become a lot clearer. For a lot of the videos, we will be paying the documentation a visit, and at the top of each script we have links to the components of the API used, the classes, the methods and the properties. So this will all become a lot clearer as you progress through the course. Maybe after every couple of sections you can come back and check out that diagram and see if it's beginning to make a bit more sense. By the end of this course, you will see how all those components gel together for automating workflows with web maps with the ArcGIS API for Python.